What's going on, guys? This is Empty Box, and today we're going to be talking about Assetto Corsa with the 1.3 updates. I'm not going to be talking about the DLC that launched alongside the 1.3 update that will come in a future video. I feel it's best to keep the two separate because the 1.3 version of the game is available to all owners of Assetto Corsa regardless of whether they are interested in the DLC or not. And there are a couple of pretty major and tasty features with this 1.3 update that we're going to be talking about here. And of course, as always, the full changelog is down in the description if you would like to read that. First up, 64-bit and multi-threaded physics. 64-bit means that the game will now be able to use more than 4 GB of RAM on your system. The multi-threaded physics means that the physics can run on multiple threads on your processor, thereby spreading the load. Overall, I can't say that I've seen any substantial performance improvements when we're talking single car, single track type scenarios. However, the difference that I've noticed is that this game runs a lot more efficiently when you're running with large grids of AI or running with multiple cars on tracks, you know, with a lot of different cars. You know, and it makes perfectly good sense. The multi-threaded physics, you're spreading more of the load out, that's good, as well as the 64-bit. The game can use more than 4 GB of RAM. It just runs more efficiently. Whereas beforehand, at the start of a race, I was expecting to get about 50 frames per second with a decent number of AI on the grid. Now I'm getting closer to 70 at the same type of settings with the same scenario. This has actually enabled me to actually go ahead and turn up some of the in-game graphics settings a little bit to make use of that extra performance that is now available. You know, overall, it's not a huge difference, but it is definitely appreciated because a more efficient game is always a better game. I mean, who likes games that run like crap? Nobody. Next up on my list of things to talk about, and perhaps most controversially on this list, engine gearbox over-rev protection. This means that in paddle-shifted cars you can no longer downshift in situations that would blow the engine up or cause damage to the engine, as is common on many of these cars in the real world. As far as I'm concerned, this is a big step in the right direction and a certain improvement because downshifting 82,000 times in the span of about a second is pretty dang stupid, looks pretty dang stupid, and really is not realistic at all in the first place. Of course, though, many people like to downshift like madmen in those cars, and they've complained about it. But as far as I'm concerned, deal with it! Switching gears to a feature that is significantly less controversial, force feedback changes in car. You now have the ability to adjust your force feedback strength while driving on track, which is nice and handy because it means no more having to go back to the car setup menus to lower your force feedback gain, or alternatively the main menus to lower your overall gain. And this will be saved on a per car basis. Just use the numpad plus and minus keys to adjust your force feedback strength, and you'll get the little pop-up on screen telling you what's going on. Yeah, it's a really small little feature, not a huge change, but at the same time, this one just gets a massive thumbs up for me because I cannot count the number of times where I've left my force feedback gain in the car setup, or alternatively the main menus, just turned up a little bit too high because one car works better that way or another car doesn't. To be able to change it in-game is just so much simpler. It's the way it should be. There you go, big thumbs up, seal of approval for sure. Alrighty, reminder, you can find the full changelog down in the description because for the rest of this video I'm going to pretty much talk just about the physics and the physics changes because that is one of the big things with the 1.3 updates. So let us begin. First of all, there's a new ABS system, which basically means go ahead and stomp on those brakes and see what happens now. Active differentials are now a thing, which I guess were not a thing, although I thought they were already a thing, but apparently they weren't a thing. They are now a thing. Go ahead and try the Ferrari 458 out and you will go ahead and see the difference that is available because that thing just slides around like it ain't no thing but a chicken wing. Along the same lines, all-wheel drive cars now can also have active differentials at the front as well. The difference is pretty noticeable when you drive a car like the GTR Nismo. It actually drives much better than what it did beforehand, probably thanks to that. It actually turns now. It doesn't feel like a tank. Next up, the GT2 and GT3 cars have received updated aero stalling for the front splitter and diffuser, which means that debate about whether or not Eau Rouge is flat out in a GT3 car on cold tires with a full tank of fuel is absolutely stupid because it was absolutely stupid to begin with that you could actually do that. Big thumbs up. Big thumbs up. However, all of this is small chips compared to the version 5 tire model, which is available on all cars except for 7 specific ones, which is the Ferrari 312T, the Lamborghini Miura, Lotus 49, Lotus 98T, Lotus Exos 125, and the Shelby Cobra. Those cars all smell funny, apparently. That was just a joke. It's just a joke. Don't take everything so literal. However, on the non-smelly cars, you will notice that right out of the box, you need to get some heat into the tires. It is definitely much more of a factor now than what was previously in Assetto Corsa. You know, you really can detect a noticeable change when the tires get up to temperature, get up to pressures, and are actually working at their peak optimal efficiency. Once you get the tires up to their optimum temperatures and pressures, the driving experience has still changed, but it's still very much the same, in a good way. One thing in particular that I think has undergone some serious improvement with this update is the way the cars transition into understeer and oversteer. With this new updated tire model, it's pretty much seamless between the two, which what that really does is give you more room to work the cars with, and you can actually feel the understeer build up in the middle of a corner when you got your inputs wrong, or you can feel the wheel spin build up a little bit slower, and it's more progressive, and it's more easy to detect that. But at the same time, because of that, you have a better feel for the car, and you're working the car more, you're working the car harder, and you're actually making more inputs. So in one sense, it's more difficult because you have more things to balance, and it has maybe a smaller window where everything is absolutely happy and perfect. But at the same time, it's wider because you have more window to work with, if that makes any sense at all. This update has really changed the game for me. Not necessarily that the game has been changed, which I'll talk about here in a moment, but a lot of cars that I didn't necessarily enjoy all that much or kind of fell by the wayside throughout Assetto Corsa's lifespan, I've actually come back to and found it's incredibly fun. For example, the Lotus 211 at the Nürburgring, awesomely fun. Awesomely fun. Highly recommended. Big thumbs up on that one. You know, the Roof Yellowbird. I expected that car when it came out to just be, oh my goodness, this is the car for me. And I just never really liked it. But now, after this update, that thing is a drift monster that will put a smile on your face 99 times out of 100 because you can just be totally ridiculous, and it's so much fun to do so. Heck, I'm even having fun driving the GT3 cars, which that should be saying something because they haven't been fun in this game for a while, in my opinion. So, yeah. Also within this new updated tire model are more complex flat spots, you know, based off of the tire composition and the tire loading and all sorts of other factors and everything like that, which means that you probably don't want to lock up the brakes. So you go use that new ABS code to prevent you from getting into the new flat spot code. Alrighty. Time to close this video out, and I want to close this out by being a total Debbie Downer right here because it has to be said. It needs to be said. Going back to the comment I made previously about this update changes Assetto Corsa, but it's still Assetto Corsa, that could basically be the theme of this whole entire update. Yes, this update made Assetto Corsa better, however, the AI is still the same as it was previously. There are no changes to that in this update. As well as the multiplayer is still the Wild Wild West, and you don't know what you're going to get, and by that I mean, you know, it can be pretty dang difficult to race a car that's going 90 degrees sideways at 150 miles an hour just because the netcode still needs some serious heavy-duty work. You know, it's still Assetto Corsa. It still has the same problems that Assetto Corsa had, which are, strangely enough, problems that weren't actually addressed with this update. Yes, this update is appreciated. Yes, everything in this update made the game better because generally updates do have a habit of making games better rather than worse. But at the same time, it's still the same game that it was on the 1.2 version of the game. It just drives better and looks better, runs better. But it's still the same thing. Still. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.